going up with me with the kids?
Going up. Oh, man.
Yeah, you're come on, you chicken. Good evening. Would you all please stand? Nope. Have a seat. Would you all stand with me for the invocation and pledge of allegiance, please? Councilman Rogers.
Let us pray. Our God, our Father in heaven, we thank you for this day, for the blessings you've given to each and every one of us here tonight. Tonight we pray that you'll be with us and guide us as we go about the business of the city. We continue to pray for those serving the armed forces abroad, serving in harm's way. Be with them, guard them, protect them. These things we pray in Christ's name, and amen.
Amen. Councilman Elam, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Here we go.
If I could have all the players and the coaches come up front, please.
I've got the hardware. All right, you won something.
Right in the line, fellas. It's my privilege this evening to introduce to you all one of the Vienna All-Star teams, and these are the Vienna Vigilantes. And they've had a really successful year, as you can tell by all the hardware. And so what I'd like to do this evening is just give the mic to the coach or coaches. Please introduce yourself. And then what I'd like for you to do is have the players introduce themselves and tell them what position they play.
There you go. We can do that. I'm Jordan Brown. This is Travis Roden and Eric Life and Dave Raines and Gary Akins. We're not here to be able to be here with us. But the Vigilantes, this was our 8U baseball team. They played in 4 tournaments. The third tournament that we played in, we lost to a team from Ripley by, I think it was 12. Beat us pretty badly. And then the next weekend, we went to Worthington, and we played that Ripley team in the championship, and we ended up winning 18-17. So it was a pretty special event, pretty special time. So I'm going to hand the microphone over here to Cooper. You tell him your name and what position.
My name is Cooper, and I play.
Everywhere.
Not everywhere.
Cooper played right center, left center, and right for us, and left, and a little bit of second base and shortstop. He did. He was everywhere. That's on the Jace. All purpose.
My name is Jace, and I play outfield.
My name is Noah, and I play left field and second base.
My name is Jack, and I play short and second.
My name is Cheney, and I play second.
My name is Owen. And I play third and second base.
My name is Landon, and I play first.
My name is Trevor, and I play outfield.
So we need to give these fellows a round of applause. And I'd also like for you all to give the coaches a round of applause. It takes a lot of time. So I have some certificates for you all. I'm going to call your name. If you would, just please walk over here. Mike Elam, one of our city council members, is our representative to Vienna Rec. And so I'd like for you to pick up your certificate from Mike and get a handshake, okay?
And I love baseball, so you guys keep at it. I know sometimes probably Coach Brown or one of them, they yell at you or something or get on you, but just remember, if they're on you because they know you can do better. When they quit yelling or correcting you, that means they've given up on you. So as long as they're giving some kind of correction, so take that. Yeah, I'm a yeller from way back, so you have to say you just keep at it, and it's great that you're part of Vienna Rec and all the stuff that you do with baseball. And I've heard good things about you guys, so
Mike, have you ever been thrown out of a game? Because these two got tossed in Mineral Wells by somebody. It wasn't a good situation.
All right, we're tied.
I was like, it was.
They've asked me
These two
to
coaches.
remove myself from the field. That's all right.
All
We're
right.
fighting for you. All
So
right.
the first one is for Cheney Brown. Landon Stout. Owen Hyack. Noah Life. Connor Wenmuth. Landry Brown. Wyatt Starcher. Jack Roten. Ben
There's
Raines.
another one, sorry.
Jace Davis. Ben Akins. Cooper Maley. Trevor Maley. And last is Mason Boyce.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Thank
Fellas,
you, guys.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You can go now and do your homework.
Thank you.
Hey, Jim, would you give me the clipboard? I'm sorry, I didn't think to pick it up.
You're so cute.
My son got his first foul ball with the Clippers, and he's so excited that he decided he wanted to play baseball again. I had to tell him that the season's over.
How old is he?
No.
Is he? That's when it gets fun.
Well, he had no interest in it, and all of a sudden, one foul ball.
Foul ball?
All right, we have one person that signed up on the public forum this evening, so Brenda Powell.
My name is Brenda Powell. Thank you very much for having this opportunity to come and speak before you this evening. I just have a couple things that I wanted to talk about here for just a second that's on the agenda this evening. The first thing is actually about the ordinance and the second reading regarding the cable company. I didn't know whether or not that people were aware of it, but Suddenlink was bought out back in they weren't bought out, but they were 70% of their company was actually bought by Altice. And it's just so hard to know that they have bought in the company and all of the things that are associated with it and I know that the city can't do anything really about programming and things of that sort. But I would like to ask about the franchise fee. If the city participates in a franchise fee, or if they're charging a B&O tax, because on our bill that we receive, it's actually a B&O tax is what it shows. So I didn't know whether you could clarify that. Maybe Mr. Skogstad could do that. Sorry. As far as what actually the city is doing with the fee regarding the company.
We'll get you an answer for that, okay?
Okay, you
All
don't
right.
have that? Okay.
Our finance director can do that.
Okay, well, I appreciate it, because I know that the county actually, back in 2015, and I know that also that the contract comes up every 10 years, and they actually went for a 3% franchise fee for the cable to pay, and I just didn't know how it's working with the cable, so I just was curious about that. people say that they do not have anything that they can do, and actually they do have an alternative with the West Virginia Legislature in Chapter 1 and its subdivision. It's Article 1, it's Cable Television Systems Act, which that they can go on the website, and actually through the legislature, I can provide that link so people can research that a little bit more, but people do have a right. We just don't, they might not know it if they would want to check into it. So I wanted to check on that. The other thing I wanted to ask about that's on here actually is the ordinance for the first reading of creating and regulating lit lot parking access. I was curious to know where those lots are at within the city and what it's going to pertain to as far as where you're creating them if they're not already existing, and also when regulating, what you're going to be doing with that as far as regulating, and if there's going to be fees involved regarding it also. So that's just something else that I wanted to ask.
Okay, are you finished?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to call to order this regular session of the Vienna City Council for August the 22nd, 2019. Let the record reflect that I've taken roll, that all members of council, with the exception of the two Rogers, are here this evening. Mr. Connolly's hosting the Republican Party picnic, so he's out, and Mr. Bibby is under the weather. So having a quorum, we will proceed. The minutes from the regular council meeting held on August the 8th, 2019 have been printed, posted, and circulated. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are no objections, then the minutes will stand approved as posted. The treasurer's report will be given at the first council meeting in September, so we'll move right into unfinished business. The first item on our agenda this evening under unfinished business is an ordinance on second reading granting a franchise to Community Antenna Service for the construction and operation of a cable system. Mr. Skogstad, if you'd give us an overview of this item and the next, because they're both the same. It is a franchise to operate the cable systems.
Under both West Virginia statute and the CSR, or the Code State rules, there's a procedure for granting franchises. The idea was to encourage cable companies to roll out infrastructure in areas that years ago did not have cable television, and to ensure that they met certain basic qualifications. Every 5 years, well, our last cable franchise agreements ended, or for 5 years. We've moved these to 10. I don't want to say that they're a pass-through, but essentially the city doesn't have a lot of room to negotiate specific terms. You deal with customer complaints through the Public Service Commission. We essentially are agreeing to do the same thing that we had done in years past, which to allow the public, to grant franchises to the two cable operators who operate in the area. And these are the ordinances that are required by statute and by CSR to get that done. I don't know that there's more to explain than that, but I can answer any questions if you have them.
We'll get to that in a minute if council has any questions. All right. I'll entertain a motion on second reading for the approval granting a franchise to Community Antenna Service for the construction and operation of a cable system.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve on second reading an ordinance granting the franchise to Community Antenna Service for the construction and operation of a cable system. Is there any further discussion? Questions for Mr. Skogstad? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor on second reading, granting a franchise to Community Antenna Service, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. The second item under unfinished business this evening is an ordinance on second reading granting a franchise to Seabridge Acquisition, LLC, doing business as Suddenlink Communications for the construction and operation of a cable system. I'll entertain a motion for approval on second reading of the ordinance granting that franchise?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve on second reading the ordinance granting a franchise to Seabridge Acquisition LLC, doing business as Suddenlink Communications. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor on second reading, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to new business. This is an ordinance on first reading, creating and regulating land lot parking areas. The whole purpose of this ordinance is to allow some of the businesses that are in the central part of the city of Vienna to use parking areas that will be designated as city parking lots. The ordinance that is now written requires that you have X number of parking spaces for your business, and it's based on square footage. So for example, if you wanted to put a restaurant in, you're required to have one parking space for every 100 square feet. If you want to put a retail business in, you must have one space for every 300 square feet. And if you have a doctor's office, you are required to have one parking space per exam room. We have a couple areas in town that have been vacant for a while, and this is part of the economic development to allow the businesses in those areas to use these parking spaces as part of the requirement under the ordinance to meet that, so that hopefully we can get someone to move and put a new business in. There are two areas that I'm particularly looking at on Grand Central Avenue between 28th and 29th Street. The hardware store has been empty for a number of years. One of the reasons that is because there are only 2 parking spaces that go with that building. It will never qualify under the ordinance that we have now due to that fact. The other one is down on the other side of Cheddar's. There's a business complex right there, a small strip mall, and an adjoining business that's there. We have a parking lot already there where well number 10 is. It's already paved, and I believe there are 7 parking spaces already designated there. But by doing this and designating them as a land lot lease, the people that are in that strip mall or the adjoining business will be able to take those 7 spaces and use them to satisfy the requirement so that new businesses can come in. We own several tracts of ground at Johns Manville that are 1 block away. At some point, we would like to take one of those lots and make it into a parking area. If things go well and the development of Johns Manville on the industrial side continues, then we will already have a parking lot in place so that a business could come in, and hopefully we'll have to create more parking spaces for more business that would come in. So that is the reason why it is in there. If you all need more information, 1329.05 is the city ordinance that applies to this. And this particular ordinance only applies to existing businesses. If you would come into town and you would want to build a new business, you would be required to put in the correct amount of parking spaces to meet the ordinance. But because these buildings are already existing, we're trying to work a way so that we can allow them to jointly use these parking spaces to satisfy that ordinance. So, questions?
Makes sense. Good move.
Well, there's a lot of towns have main streets and there is no parking. So we're trying to revitalize a couple areas. I think it'll be a good thing.
So Mayor, is it just, for example, the 7 spaces you mentioned by the strip mall, and then is it specific designated areas, or does this permit the city to continually create these areas if there is other demand? I mean, is this it as far as the parking spaces that would be created under this ordinance, or does this?
This allows us in the future, if we need to create another parking area, to continue to do that. All of these would be within the commercial zone. And so it would be with anything within 500 feet of the businesses. So it's a pretty,
Okay, so it's a program.
it is a program, yes.
My second question is, you mentioned Vitrolite. Are the two spaces that are currently with that property in the rear? Or are they on Grand Central on the berm?
One of each.
Okay.
That's all there is.
So is there a possibility that the city would create these lease lots on berms on Grand Central, or that's not something that would be done?
Well, obviously, it's up to the will and pleasure of the council, but because there's such limited parking on Grand Central Gym, I don't see that being a possibility, because the parking spaces are already there. And I'm, for one, am not in favor of metered parking. The only other thing you could do would be put parking meters on Grand Central, which I would not like to do.
So, but just, I don't wanna be dead, keep going on, but, so for example, Vitrolite, it has one spot on the berm on Grand Central on its side. And there's additional parking there in that strip from Old People's to Chuck, but those are not necessarily being considered as being designated leased lots.
Correct.
I would not
Correct.
agree with, okay. All right,
The
thank you.
antique store has a parking lot out back. The Vitrolite has one space out back. The florist, I'm not sure. We looked at making the alley additional parking. It's too narrow. You can't do it. There's no way to, even if you angle park, there's no way to do that.
Well, the floor shop could make parking in they have ground in the back. They
Yeah.
could- just like Chuck has, they
Yes.
can make parking in the back.
Yes.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
those are all my questions, thank you.
All right.
Can I clarify something? This doesn't deal with businesses that exist currently, so Walmart or whatever business that's currently there could not take advantage of the program. What this is designed to do is encourage, as the ordinance reads, buildings that are either new, you have new construction, or buildings who at the time of the request are either being remodeled or are undergoing a usage change. So the idea, as the mayor said, is to encourage businesses to come in and take advantage of some of the structures that we have in place that are not being used. To answer Mr. Leach's question, council or the mayor can designate lots as lend lots, and the mayor's already talked about the two that that council, or I guess the mayor's plans proposes to use, but I just wanted to make it clear that it's not just for pre-existing businesses. It's actually for new businesses or businesses that are undergoing renovation or usage changes.
That is correct. Yes.
So Mayor, on like the we keep talking about the Vitrolite building, do they have to, could you tear that building down, or does it have to be that particular building? Can you renovate that building, or can it be torn down and?
It would have to be that building.
It'd have to be that building. Okay.
Because if you were going to replace it with an existing, or with a new building, you would have to allow for the parking spaces as required as part of that. It is a big lot.
Right.
Okay, so they could do like the antique store and put parking spaces in the back. But, I would love to see somebody renovate that building. It has got the most beautiful hardwood floors in it. Mm-hmm. I had an opportunity to go to Bristol, Tennessee, and they took an old hardware store down there and made it into a restaurant. They left all of that old wood in there and repurposed it. It is absolutely gorgeous. And we waited 2 hours to get in because it was so popular. I would love to see someone put an antique store, put a nice restaurant in with the building as it is. It's like a tank. That building was well built. But there's no way with the parking restrictions that you could do that. So this will be one opportunity that maybe somebody will get an idea and come in and do something nice with that. So, but anyway, that's my reasoning for bringing this to you tonight. As I said, the parking lot that is down where 10th Street is, it's where our well number 10 is. It's already paved. We'll designate one of the parking spaces as a handicap space, and then it has a grass strip behind it. If we would ever need to add more parking spaces, we can add another 7, 8 parking spaces in that area. So hopefully, we'll have to do that. But for now, we'll take the 7 and see what happens. Okay? All right. I'll entertain a motion on first reading, creating and regulating land lot parking areas.
So moved.
Second.
Would you like for me to, I'm sorry, would you like for me to read the ordinance as Mr. Skogstad drafted it?
No, that's.
Are we good?
You can do it by title.
Okay, it's an ordinance creating and regulating land lot parking areas. Okay? Be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that whereas it is the intent of the city to encourage small businesses to utilize areas that due to limitations in parking areas available to it may go underutilized, and to encourage economic development in those areas. That is by title. All right? Is there any further discussion? And I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the ordinance creating and regulating land lot parking areas on first reading, please signify by raising your right hand. All right, all opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The last item on the agenda this evening is a resolution. I'm going to let Mr. Leach handle that. I'm going to recuse myself from this one. So, Mr. Leach, if you would do that, please.
Yes, Mayor. Before we have a resolution appointing Cassandra Rapp to a full 5-year term with the Vienna Library Board. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that Cassandra Rapp is hereby appointed to a full 5-year term as a director to serve on the Vienna Library Board. Said appointment is to begin July 1, 2019 and expires June 30, 2024. This is a position to be served without compensation. This time I'd entertain a motion to adopt the resolution appointing Cassandra Rapp to a full 5-year term with the Vienna Library Board.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the resolution appointing Cassandra Rapp to a full 5-year term with the Vienna Library Board, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you very much. That concludes our agenda this evening. Are there any council comments? All right, hearing none then, I have one announcement. Actually, I have 2 announcements. This Saturday from 1 to 4 will be the Back to School Bash in Spencer Park. It is a celebration put on by our police department and our first responders. It's a very well attended afternoon, so if you're out, take a look at it. Chief Pfeiffer, any comments on that?
It's going to be a fantastic event. We got a lot of support this year through the Wood County Prevention Coalition, so that should be really fun.
Yep. Okay, 1 to 4 on Saturday, Spencer Park. All right. Next regular council meeting will be scheduled for September the 12th at 7 p.m. Meeting adjourned. You stay.
I'm a fast talker.
Yeah, just a little old school. I like it.